You better go off. Good afternoon, football fans. Big Al here on this Tuesday, December 26, 2023. I hope everyone had a great Christmas. Now we're back to work with the Week 16 edition of the week that was. Here in part one, we'll be taking a look at Thursday night football between the Rams and Saints. And in the Saturday games, including the Bengals and Steelers and the Bills and Chargers. And the 6 early games from Sunday. That includes the Browns at the Texans, the Lions at the Vikings, Packers and Panthers, Colts and Falcons, Seahawks and Titans, and the Commanders and Jets. That's coming up in this video. In part 2, which will be coming out later on, we'll look at the 3 late games from Sunday, including the Jaguars and Bucks, the Cardinals and Bears, and the Cowboys and Dolphins. Then Sunday night football had the Patriots and Broncos. We'll look at that. And the Christmas Day triple header with the Raiders and the Chiefs, the Giants and Eagles, and on Monday night, the Ravens and the 49ers. Also coming up in part 2 will be my Week 17 power rankings and the updated playoff races in the NFL entering Week 17. So with that, let's jump into Thursday night football, starting off with the Los Angeles Rams knocking off the New Orleans Saints 30-22. We'll start with individual numbers for the Rams. First, Matthew Stafford was 24 of 34 for 328 yards with 2 touchdowns and no interceptions and a 120.7 quarterback rating. All right. Kyron Williams led the ground attack for LA, 22 rushes, 104 yards, and a touchdown on 4.7 per rush. Rivers, 6 for 20 yards on 3.3 per run. Puka Nacua, 2 for 16 yards, that's 8 per run. Cooper Kupp and Matthew Stafford each ran once, but for negative yardage. -3 for Kupp, -4 for Stafford. All right, over to the Ram receivers. Puka Nacua, he had a great day. 9 catches, 164 yards, and a touchdown on 18.2 per catch and 11 targets. Robinson, 6 for 82 and a touchdown, 13.7 per catch on 6 targets. Cooper Kupp, 6 for 52 yards, 8.7 a catch on 12 targets. And Tyler Higbee, 3 for 30 yards on 10 per grab and 3 targets. Havrasik, 3 for 4 on field goals. Longest was 32 yards, 3 for 3 on extra points. Evans, just 2 punts for 23 yards average. Longest was 38. On to the defense for the Rams. Johnson had 5 tackles. Lake, 5 tackles, 1 pass defensed. Jones, 4 tackles, a sack, and 2 passes defensed. Witherspoon, 4 tackles. Roseboom, 2 tackles. Turner, 2 tackles and a sack. Fuller, 2 tackles, a pass defense, and an interception. Murchison, 2 tackles, likewise with Aaron Donald. Durant had 1 tackle and 1 pass defense for the Rams. Over now to the Saints. Derek Carr, 27 of 40 for 319 with 3 touchdowns, 1 interception, and a QB rating of 106.1. Not much to speak about with the ground game for New Orleans. Alvin Kamara was the leading rusher. 9 rushes for just 19 yards. That's 2.1 per run. Williams, 2 for 8. Rashid Shaheed, 1 for 4, both averaging 4 yards a run. Taysom Hill, 2 for 2 yards, likewise with David Carr. On to the Saints receivers. Chris Olave, 9 catches, 123 on 13 targets and 13.7 yards per catch. Rashid Shaheed, 5 for 70 yards and a touchdown on 9 targets, 14 yards a catch. Johnson, 4 catches, 48 yards and a score on 7 targets, 12 yards a catch. A.T. Perry, 1 catch on 1 target for 35 yards and a touchdown. Alvin Kamara, 5 catches, 16 yards on 6 targets at 3.2 per reception. So pretty much running or catching the ball, Alvin Kamara was a non-factor. Moreau, 1 catch, 13 yards on 2 targets. Kirkwood, 1 catch, 9 yards on 1 target. Williams, 1 catch, 5 yards on 1 target. No field goals attempted for Groupie, 2 for 2 on extra points. Headley, 2 punts, 35.5 average. Long was 39 with 1 punt inside the 20-yard line. On to the defense. Adebo led the Saints defense with 9 and 1 pass defense. Tyrann Matthew, 6 tackles and 1 pass defense. Taylor, 5 tackles. Yiadom, 4 tackles. Granderson, 3 tackles and a sack. Amadi, 3 tackles. Davis with 2 tackles. Howden, 2 tackles and a pass defense. Werner, Shepard, and Saunders with 2 tackles each for the New Orleans Saints. All right. Total yards were 458 for the Rams, 339 for the Saints. Passing yards, 325 LA and 304 New Orleans. Rushing is 153 LA and 35 for New Orleans. Time of possession, Rams 34 minutes, 18 seconds. Saints 25 minutes, 42 seconds. First downs, 23-18 in favor of the LA Rams. Third downs, 5 of 11 for New Orleans, 4 of 12 for Los Angeles. Fourth downs, Saints 0 for 3, Rams 1 for 1. Saints had 3 penalties for 20 yards. They were sacked twice for 15. No fumbles lost, 1 interception. And the Rams had 3 penalties for 25 yards. 1 sack, losing 3 yards, I should say. No fumbles lost or interceptions. Both teams finished with a couple of punts. Closing line was LA -4, and the over-under was 45.5. I picked LA both straight up and against the spread. Sorry, can't stop yawning. Now we're going to move to Saturday. The first game of the day was the Pittsburgh Steelers hammering the Cincinnati Bengals 34-11. All right, the Rams are now 8-7 on the season after Thursday night's victory. The Saints fall to 7-8. As for the Steelers, they are also 8-7 on the year. The Bengals also dropped to 8-7. All right. Individual numbers now for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Mason Rudolph played well, 17 of 27 for 290 with a couple touchdowns and no interceptions, quarterback rating of 124. Probably the highest QB rating by any Steelers quarterback this year. On to the rushing game. Najee Harris, 19 for 78 yards and a touchdown, 4.1 per run. Jaylen Warren had 8 rushes for 24 yards. That's 3 per tote. Austin, 1 rush, 7 yards, and a touchdown. And Mason Rudolph ran twice for 4 yards. All right, George Pickens, under fire by the Steeler Nation over the past few weeks. He performed on Saturday, 4 catches, 195 yards, and 2 touchdowns on 6 targets at a whopping 48.8 yards per catch. Allen Robinson, 4 for 36 on 4 targets, 9 yards a grab. Jaylen Warren, 5 for 30 on 6 targets, that's 6 per catch. Deontay Johnson, 2 for 15 yards on 5 targets, 7.5 a catch. Washington, 1 catch, 8 yards on his only target. And Austin, or rather Boykin, 1 catch, 6 yards on his only target. Austin had 2 targets in the game, but no catches, rather. Chris Boswell, 2 for 2 on field goals. Longest was 50. 4 for 4 on extra points. Harvin, 5 punts, averaging 36.8 yards per punt. Longest was 42 with 1 punt inside the 20. All right, on to the defense. Walker and Roberts had 5 tackles apiece. Wallace also had 5 tackles. He also added a pass defense. Roll, 3 tackles, 1 pass defense, 1 interception. Miles Jack, 3 tackles and a sack. Sullivan, 3 tackles and a pass defense. TJ Watt, 2 tackles, 1 sack, 1 fumble, 1 pass defense. Herbig, 2 tackles. Joey Porter Jr., 2 tackles and a pass defense. And Robinson with 2 tackles for the Steelers. Now to the Cincinnati Bengals. Jake Browning, 28 of 42, 335 yards, 1 touchdown, 3 interceptions, QB rating of 69. Joe Mixon, 11 rushes, 43 yards, 3.9 per run. Brown, 4 for 16 on 4 yards per run. And 1 rush for no gain by Jake Browning. On to the Cincinnati receivers, led by T. Higgins. 5 catches, 140 yards, and a touchdown on 8 targets. That's 28 yards per catch. Tyler Boyd, 5 for 59 on 7 targets, 11.8 yards per catch. Drew Sample, 3 for 38 yards on 3 targets, 12.7 yards a catch. Irwin, 4 for 37 on 4 targets, 9.3 on average. Iosivas, 4 catches, 36 yards on 8 targets, 9 per catch. Brown, 2 catches, 8 yards, 2 targets, 4 per grab. Mixon, 2 for 7 on 4 targets, 3.5 a catch. Wilcox, 1 catch, 6 yards on his only target. Hudson, 1 catch on 2 targets for 5 yards. Jones, 1 catch, -1 yard. Evan McPherson, 1 for 1 on field goal. His only was 35 yards. No extra points attempted. Robbins, 3 punts, 44 yards per. Longest is 51. 2 punts inside the 20. On to the Bengals defense. Battle led the way with 4 tackles. Wilson, 3 tackles and a pass defense. Awuzie, 3 tackles and a forced fumble. The 2 Hills had 3 tackles. That's BJ tackle and Dax Hill. They both had 3 tackles. Jermaine Pratt, 2 tackles. Trey Hendrickson, 2 tackles and a sack. Turner, 2 tackles, 1 pass defense. And Hilton, 1 tackle and 1 pass defense for the Bengals. All right. Total yards, 397 for the Steelers, 368 for the Bengals. Passing yards were 309 to 284 for Cincinnati. Rush yards, 113 to 59. Nearly a 2-1 edge to Pittsburgh. Time of possession, Bengals 31 minutes, 49 seconds. Steelers 28 minutes, 11 seconds. Cincinnati had 17 first downs versus 16 for the Steelers. The Bengals were 6 for 13 on 3rd down. Pittsburgh 7 of 14. The Bengals were 0 for 2 on 4th down. Steelers had no 4th down plays. 3 penalties, 20 yards for Cincinnati. They were sacked 3 times, losing 26. No fumbles lost, 3 interceptions, and 3 punts. Pittsburgh, 2 penalties, 15 yards, They were sacked once for 6 yards, no fumbles or interceptions, and 5 punts. Closing line was Cincinnati -3, and the over-under was 39.5. I did take the Bengals and lost both picks. And in the Saturday night game, saw the Buffalo Bills hang on and beat the lowly LA Chargers 24-22. And the Bills are playing as well as anyone in the NFL right now. Buffalo improves to 9-6, while the eliminated Los Angeles Chargers are now 5-10. Individual numbers for the Bills: Josh Allen 15-21, 237 yards, 1 touch interception, quarterback rating of 104.7. James Cook 20 rushes, 70 yards, 3.5 yards per run. Leonard Fournette 5 for 20 yards on 4 per total. Josh Allen 5 for 15 and 2 rushing scores on 3 yards per run. On to the Bills receivers. Gabe Davis, 4 catches, 130 yards, and a touchdown on 6 targets, 32.5 yards per catch. Have yourself a day. Shakir, 3 for 45 yards on 3 targets, 15 yards a catch. Stephon Diggs, 5 catches, 29 yards, 8 targets, 5.8 per catch. Dawson Knox, 2 catches, 26 yards on 2 targets, 13 per grab. And Dalton Kincaid, 1 catch on 2 targets for 7 yards. Tyler Bass, 1 for 1 on field goals. Only attempt was 29, 3 for 3 on extra points. Sam Martin, 4 punts, averaging 52.3 yards per punt. Longest was 58. 3 of his 4 punts inside the 20-yard line. On to the Buffalo defense. Taylor Rapp, 7 tackles, paced the team. Johnson, 6 tackles, 2 passes defense. Benford, 5 tackles, 1 pass defense. Bernard, 5 tackles and a sack. Russell Douglas, same numbers, 5 tackles and a sack. Rousseau, 4 tackles. Jordan Poyer, 3 tackles. Ed Oliver, 3 tackles and 2 sacks for the Buffalo Bills. For the LA Chargers, Easton Stick, 23 of 33, 215 yards, no touchdowns or INTs, 87.3 QB rating. Austin Eckler, 15 rushes, 65 yards, 4.3 yards per run. Easton Stick, 7 rushes, 25 yards, and a touchdown on 3.6. Davis, 1 for 8 yards. Spiller, 2 for 1 yard. Johnson, 1 for 1 yard. And Kelly, 1 rush for -2 yards. Not much to talk about with the Chargers receivers. Palmer, 5 catches, 47 yards on 8 targets, 9.4 yards per grab. Gerald Everett, 7 for 42 on 8 targets and 6 per grab. Erickson, 2 for 31 on 2 targets, 15.5 per grab. Quentin Johnston, 2 catches, 29 yards on 5 targets, 14.5 yards per catch. Smart, 1 catch, 23 yards on his only target. Austin Eckler, 3 for 21 on 4 targets at 7 per grab. Guyton, 1 catch, 12. Davis, 1 catch, 6 yards on his only target. Spiller, 1 catch for 4 yards on his only target. Kelly had 1 target in the game, no catches. And for some strange reason, they put Easton Stick in here with no catches and -5 yards. I don't understand that. Dicker the kicker, that's Cameron Dicker. 5 for 5 on field goals. Longest was 53. 1 for 1 on extra points. Scott with 4 punts, averaging 50 yards. 1 tackle, or not tackle, but 1 punt inside the 20. Speaking of tackles, let's go over to the Chargers defense. James and Johnson each had 4. Hawkins, 4 tackles as well, plus 1 pass defense. Tuipulotu, 4 tackles, half a sack, and a forced fumble. Khalil Mack, 3 tackles. Davis, 3 tackles. Williams and Murray, each with 2 tackles apiece. Gilman, 2 tackles, 1 forced fumble, 1 pass defense, 1 interception. And Kendricks, 2 tackles and half a sack. Total yards, 335 for the Buffalo Bills and 273 for the Chargers. Passing yards, 230 to 175 for Buffalo. Rush yards also favored the Bills, but not by a big margin, 105 to 98. Time of possession, Chargers 33 minutes, 4 seconds. Bills 26 minutes, 56 seconds. First downs, 18 for the Chargers and 16 for the Bills. Third downs, 5 of 10 for Buffalo, 4 of 14 for LA, and no fourth downs for either team. Buffalo finishes with 7 penalties for 64 yards. They were sacked once for 7, lost 2 fumbles, threw 1 interception with 4 punts. And the LA Chargers, penalties for 29 yards. They were sacked 5 times for 40. No fumbles lost or interceptions, and 4 punts as well. Closing line was Buffalo minus 13, and the over-under was 4.5. I got the straight-up win, but I lost the ATS since the Chargers only lost by 2. And they were 13-point underdogs in this game at close. Okay, let's jump over to Sunday now. We'll start with the Cleveland Browns beating down the Houston Texans, who are without C.J. Stroud again. Cleveland wins it 36-22. The Browns will move to 10-5 and in a very good spot in the AFC wildcard race. Meanwhile, the Houston Texans dropped to 8-7. Individual numbers now for the Cleveland Browns. Joe Flacco, 27-42, 368 yards, 3 touchdowns, but 2 interceptions. His quarterback rating was 96.1. Brian Thompson Robinson, this is the rookie from UCLA. 1 out of 2 for 6 yards on 56 on a quarterback rating of 56 points. All right, rushing. And the Browns really didn't run it all that much. Jerome Ford, 5 of 15, or not 5 of 15, but Jerome Ford had 15 rushes for 25 yards and a touchdown, easy for me to say, on 1.7 yards per total. Strong, 5 rushes, 22 yards, 4.4 per run. Kareem Hunt, 7 rushes, 11 yards, and a touchdown, 1.6 per run. Joe Flacco, 2 rushes for a yard. Dorian Thompson Robinson, 1 rush, minus 5 yards. And how about the day for Amari Cooper? 11 catches for 265 and 2 touchdowns on 15 targets at 24.1 yards per catch. I figured if he made a couple more big catches, he'd be over 300. David Njoku, 6 catches, 44 yards, and a touchdown on 9 targets, 7.3 per catch. Moore, 2 for 19 on 4 targets, 9.5 per grab. Akins, 2 for 18 on 2 targets, 9 yards per grab. Tillman, 2 catches, 13 yards, 2 targets, 6.5 yards a catch. Bryant, 1 catch, 6 yards on 1 target. Bell, 1 catch, 6 yards on 2 targets. Kareem Hunt, 2 catches, 5 yards on 4 targets at 2.5. 1 target each for Strong and Goodwin. No catches for either. And Jerome Ford, 1 catch for minus 2 yards on 2 targets. Hopkins, no field goals attempted, 2 for 2 on extra points. Corey Bojorquez, 3 punts, 49.3 yards per punt. Longest was 55. All right. On to the defense. Simone Takitaki, 6 tackles, 1 forced fumble, and 2 passes defense. Owusu Koromora, something. 5 tackles, 2 passes defense, and an interception. I apologize if I butchered his name. Ford, 4 tackles. Hickman, 3 tackles. Emerson, 3 tackles and a pass defense. Harmon, 3 tackles, 1 pass defense, and an interception. Myles Garrett with 3 tackles. Zadarius Smith, 2 tackles and 2 sacks, plus a pass defense. Adams, 2 tackles, and Newsome with 1 tackle and 1 pass defense for the Browns. As for the Houston Texans, Case Keenum, 11 of 17, 62 yards and 2 interceptions, 31.6 QB rating. He would be replaced with Davis Mills, 15 of 32 for 149 touchdowns and an 81.4 QB rating. Devin Singletary pretty much held in check on the ground, 9 rushes, 44 yards, 4.9 per run. Davis Mills, 2 for 9 on 4.5. Robert Woods, 1 rush, 7 yards. Agumba Wale, 1 rush for 6. Damian Pierce, 3 for 6 yards, 2 per run. To the Texans, receivers Dalton Schultz led the way with 8 catches for 61 on 11 targets, 7.6 yards per catch. Brown, 3 catches, 38 yards, 7 targets, 12.7 per catch. Jordan, 2 for 27 on 3 targets, 13.5 per grab. Devin Singletary, 3 for 19 on 3 targets, 6.3. Nico Collins, Hutchinson, 1 catch, 18 yards on 2 targets. Robert Woods, 2 for 14 on 6 targets, 7 yards per catch. Pierce, 1 catch, 10 yards on 2 targets. Beck, 2 catches, 6 yards, and a touchdown on 2 targets at 3 per grab. Matchy and Agumba Wale each had 3 targets, but no catches. Fairbairn, no field goals attempted, 2 for 2 on extra points. Johnston, 6 punts at 44.3 yards per punt. His long was 56. And how about 4 punts inside the 20-yard line? That's a pretty good stat line. Okay, on the Texan defense, Houston Carlson led the way with 6 tackles, a pass defense, and an interception. Harris, 5 tackles and a pass defense. Nelson with 5 tackles. Denzel Perryman, 5 tackles and a pass defense as well. 4 tackles and a pass defense. Sanders, 4 tackles. Hughes with 3 tackles and a sack. Amos, 3 tackles. Petrie, 3 tackles. Collins, 2 tackles. Barnett, 2 tackles and a pass defense for the Texans. All right, total yards, 418 for the Browns versus 250 for the Texans. Passing yards, more than 2-1 to Cleveland, 364 to 178. Rush yards, 72 to 54 for Houston. Time of possession, 33 minutes, 34 seconds for the Browns. 26 minutes, 26 seconds for the Texans. Cleveland had 26 first downs while Houston had 20. All right, Browns were 6 for 16 on 3rd down, 4 of 6 on 4th down. And the Texans, 5 of 15 on 3rd down, 1 for 3 on 4th down. And a lot of penalties on both sides. 9 for 55 yards for the Browns. They were sacked once, losing 10. No fumbles lost, 2 interceptions thrown, and 3 punts. And the Texans had 10 penalties for 76. Sacked 3 times, losing 33. No fumbles lost, 2 INTs, and 6 punts. Closing line was Cleveland -3, and the over-under was 40.5. I took the Browns, both straight up and against the spread, won both picks. So that makes me 3-1 in my straight up picks so far, 2-2 ATS. All right. Next up, the Detroit Lions held on and beat the Minnesota Vikings 30-24, and the victory clinches the NFC North Championship for the Detroit Lions, their first division title in 30 years. Detroit moves to 11-4, while Minnesota drops under 500 at 7-8. Individual numbers for the Lions: Jared Goff, 30 of 40 for 257 with a touchdown and no interceptions and a 99.7 quarterback rating. Jahmyr Gibbs, 15 rushes, 80 yards, 2 TDs on the ground at 5.3 per run. David Montgomery, not bad himself, 17 for 55 and a touchdown, 3.2 per run. Khalif Raymond, 1 rush, 8 yards. Jared Goff, 3 rushes, no yards. All right. Amon-Ra St. Brown led the Lions receivers, 12 catches, 106, and a touchdown on 14 targets at 8.8 yards per catch. Jamison Williams, 5 for 43 on 6 targets, 8.6 per grab. Khalif Raymond, 2 for 29 on 2 targets at 14.5. Jahmyr Gibbs, 4 catches, 20 yards, 7 targets on 5 yards catch. Sam Laporta, quiet day for him, 3 catches, 18 yards, 3 targets, 6 per catch. Reynolds, 1 catch, 16 yards on 4 targets. David Montgomery, 2 catches, 14 yards on 2 targets at 7 per grab. And Donovan Peoples-Jones, 1 catch, 11 yards on his only target. Okay. Badgley, 1 for 1 on field goals, connecting from 37 yards, and 3 of 4 on extra points. Jacks, 3 punts at 47.7 yards per punt. Longest was 57, and 2 inside the 20. On to the defense. Joseph led the way for Detroit, 6 tackles, 2 passes defense, 2 interceptions. Branch was a busy man, 5 tackles, 1 sack, 1 forced fumble, 2 passes defense, and 1 interception. Melifonwu, 5 tackles, 2 sacks, 2 passes defense, 1 interception. 4 tackles for Rodriguez, 2 tackles for Anzalone and Vidor. Vidor also added a pass defense for the Detroit Lions. Now for the hometown Minnesota Vikings, Nick Mullins, 22 of 36, 411 yards, impressive number there. 2 touchdowns, but 4 interceptions. That lowered his QB rating to 79.5. Ty Chandler was the leading rusher for the Vikings, although he didn't do much. 8 for 17 and a touchdown on 2.1 yards per run. Nick Mullins, 1 rush for a yard. Matheson, 2 rushes for -1. That would be Alexander Matheson. He had 2 rushes for -1. Justin Jefferson, are you kidding me with these catches, JJ? 6 in total for 141 and a touchdown on 10 targets, 23.5 yards per grab. KJ Osborne, 5 catches, 95 yards and a touchdown on 7 targets, 19 per catch. TJ Hawkinson, who would leave this game with an injury, he had 4 catches for 58 yards on 4 targets at 14.5 per grab. Powell, 3 catches, 53 yards on 4 targets. That's 17.7 a catch. Oliver, 1 catch, 33 on 2 targets. Munt, 1 catch, 23 on 3 targets. CJ Helm, 1 catch, 6 yards on his only target. And Jordan Addison, who got injured in this game as well. He has an ankle problem, but according to NFL Network, it says it's not to be serious. Had 1 catch for 2 yards on 4 targets. Greg Joseph, 1 for 1 on field goals. Only attempt was 26 yards, 3 for 3 on extra points. Wright with 2 punts, 50 yards average. Long was also 50, 1 punt inside the 20-yard line. Metellus led the Minnesota defense with 8 tackles. Hicks, that's Jordan Hicks, 6 tackles and 1 pass defense. Bynum, 6 tackles, 2 forced fumbles. Jones with 5 tackles, a sack, and a pass defense. Blattman, 5 tackles and a pass defense. 3 tackles for pace. And 2 tackles apiece for Phillips, Wanham, Evans, Danielle Hunter, and Harrison Smith. Known in Minnesota as the Assassin, Harrison Smith. Total yards very close to each other. 390 for the Vikings, 389 for the Lions. Passing yards, 373 to 246 for Minnesota. Yards, 143 to 17 for Detroit. Time of possession, Lions 38 minutes, 22 seconds. Vikings 21 minutes, 38 seconds. The Lions had 28 first downs versus 19 for the Vikings. Third downs, 6 of 12 for Detroit, 3 of 9 for Minnesota. Fourth downs, Lions 2 for 2, 0 for 1 for the Minnesota Vikings. And a lot of penalties in this game as well. 9 for 52 yards for Detroit, sacked only once for 11, 1 lost fumble, no interceptions, and 3 punts. And for the Vikings, 8 penalties, 64 yards. He was sacked 4 times, losing 38. No fumbles lost, 4 interceptions, and 2 punts. Closing line was Detroit minus 2.5. Over under was 48. I picked the Lions both straight up and against the spread. So I won both those picks. All right, the next game we're going to look at is the Green Bay Packers having to hang on and withstand a Carolina rally to beat the Panthers 33-30. And this comes 1 week after the Panthers upset the Falcons. In fact, I can tell you that the Packers are now 7-8 and still very much alive. For the playoffs, the Panthers are now an NFL worst 2-13 and pretty much in line for the number 1 overall pick in the 2024 draft. Individual numbers starting off with the Packers. Jordan Love, 17 of 28, 219, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions, QB rating of 109.1. Aaron Jones, pretty good rushing day, 21 for 127, that's 6 yards a pop. A.J. Dillon, 7 for 12 yards and a touchdown, 1.7 per tote. Jordan Love, 2 rushes, 12 yards and a touchdown, 6 yards per run. Milton, 1 for 7. Taylor, 3 for 4 yards at 1.3 per run. Romeo Doubs led the Green Bay receivers with 4 catches for 79 yards and a TD on 5 targets, 19.8 yards per grab. Kraft, 4 catches, 60 yards, 6 targets, 15 a catch. Milton, 4 catches, 44 yards on 6 targets, 11 per grab. Wicks, 2 for 29 and a touchdown on 2 targets, 14.5 per catch. Jordan Love even caught a pass in this game for 13 on his only target. Aaron Jones, 1 catch, 8 yards, 3 targets. Heath, 1 catch, no yards on 1 hit. Torrey targeted twice, no catches. Taylor, 1 catch, -1 on his only target of the game. Anders Carlson, 2 for 2 on field goals, long 53, 3 of 4 on extra points. Whelan, 3 punts, 47 points per, 54 was his line. All right, on defense for the Packers. Johnson and Nixon each had 6 tackles. McDuffie, 5 tackles. Owens, 4 tackles and a pass defense. Stokes, 4 tackles. Alexander, 4 tackles and a forced fumble. Preston Smith, 2 tackles, 1.5 sacks. Rashad Gary, 2 tackles. Quay Walker, 1 tackle and half a sack for the Packers. For the Carolina Panthers, Bryce Young, 23 of 35, 312 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions, QB rating of 113. Hubbard, 16 rushes, 43 yards, a touchdown, and 2.7 yards per run for Chuba Hubbard. 2 rushes, 33 yards, and a touchdown on 16.5 for a run for Amir Smith-Marset, who is actually a wide receiver, but is used as a running back sparingly. Bryce Young, 4 for 17 yards, 4.3. Miles Sanders, 3 rushes for 3 yards. That's it. 3 rushes for 3 yards. On to the Panther receivers. DJ Chark led the way once again. 6 catches, 98 yards, 2 touchdowns on 8 targets, 16.3 yards per catch. Adam Thielen, 6 for 94 on 8 targets as well, with 15.7 per grab. Trimble, 4 for 59 on 6 targets, 14.8. Sullivan, 3 catches, 21 yards, 5 targets, 7 a catch. Smith-Marset, 1 grab, 18 yards on his only target. Chuba Hubbard, 1 catch for 8 yards on 1 target. And Jonathan Mingo, 1 catch, 9 yards on his only target. Miles Sanders, 1 for 5 yards on 2 targets. Eddie Pinheiro, 1 for 1 on goals, only attempt from 52, 1 of 3 on extra points. Johnny Hecker, 3 punts at 50.3 yards per punt, 56 is his long, 1 punt inside the 20. On to the defense. Louvu had 6 tackles, 1 sack, and a forced fumble, pacing the Carolina defense. Von Bell and Xavier Woods each with 4 tackles apiece. Brown and Hill with 3 tackles, 2 tackles for Tuttle. And that's pretty much it for the Carolina Panthers and their defense. Total yards, 394 for Carolina, 369 for Green Bay. Passing yards, 298, 207 for the Panthers. 162.96 on the ground for the Packers. Time of possession, 31 minutes, 21 seconds for Carolina, 39 seconds for Green Bay. And a lot of first downs on both sides, 26 for the Panthers, 25 for the Pack. All right, third downs, both teams were pretty good. 8 of 14 for Green Bay, 6 of 13 for Carolina. No fourth downs for the Packers, while the Panthers were 1 for 2. 6 penalties, 67 yards for Green Bay, 1 sack for a loss of 12. No lost fumbles, no interceptions thrown, and 3 punts. 8 penalties, 67 yards for the Carolina Panthers. They were sacked twice for a loss of 14. No lost fumbles or interceptions thrown, and they too had 3 punts. Closing line, Green Bay minus 3.5, and your over-under is at 39.5. I picked Green Bay to win and cover, but Carolina only loses by 3 points. So technically, it's 3.5. So technically, Green Bay does cover the game, but barely. Let me switch this in my. There we go. All right. Next up, the Atlanta Falcons throttled the Indianapolis Colts 29-10 as the visitors from Indianapolis see their playoff hopes take a major hit. The Falcons improved to 7-8, while the Colts, they dropped to 8-7. We'll start with the individual numbers for the hometown Falcons. Taylor Heineke, 23 of 33, 229 yards, 1 touchdown, no interceptions, 99.2 quarterback rating. Bijan Robinson, 12 of 72 yards on 6 per run. Tyler Algier, 9 for 69 and a touchdown on 7.7. Cordell Patterson, 7 for 26 on 3.7. Taylor Heineke, 2 for 10 on 5-yard run. Bijan Robinson also led the Falcons in receiving. 7 catches, 50 yards on 10 targets, 7.1 yards a catch. Kyle Pitts, 3 for 49 and a touchdown on 4 targets, 16.3 per grab. Drake London, 3 for 39 on 4 targets, 13 per catch. Tyler Algier, 1 catch, 19 yards on his only target. Scotty Miller, 1 catch, 15 yards on his only target. Van Jefferson, 1 catch, 13 yards on 3 targets. Cordell Patterson, 2 for 7 yards on 2 targets and 3.5 per catch. And Hodge, 1 catch on his only target for 5 yards. Younghoe Koo, 5 for 5 on field goals. Longest is 47. 2 for 2 on extra points. Pinion with 3 punts, 44.7 yards per punt. Longest was 51 with 2 punts inside the 20-yard line. On the Atlanta defense, Landham led the way with 7 tackles. Ellis, 5 tackles, a sack, and a pass defense. Helliams, 5 tackles. Jesse Bates, 4 tackles, 2 passes defense, and an interception. Grant had 4 tackles, a sack, and a forced fumble. Terrell, 4 tackles. Harrison, 3 tackles, 2 sacks, a pass defense. Bud Dupree, 2 tackles, and a pass defense. Hughes with 2 tackles. Phillips, 2 tackles, and a pass defense. And the ageless Calais Campbell, 1 tackle and 1.5 sacks to help bolster this Atlanta defense. For the Indianapolis Colts, Gardner Minshew, 20 of 37, 201, no touchdowns, 1 interception, and a 58.5 passer rating. Probably one of his first games this year. Jonathan Taylor, 18 rushes, 43 yards and a touchdown, 2.4 per run. Minshew, 4 for 31, 7.8 per run. Goodson, 1 rush, 15 yards. Sermon, 2 for 3 yards at 1.5 a tote. Colts receivers, Granson, 5 catches, 62 yards, 7 targets, 12.4 yards per catch. Mallory, 4 for 47 on 4 targets, 11.8 per catch. Downs with 6 catches for 39 yards on 9 targets, 6.5 per grab. Antonio Pierce. No, that's not Antonio Pierce. That's Alec Pierce. Antonio Pierce is a coach. 3 catches, 30 yards on 7 targets at 10 per grab. Goodson, 1 catch, 15 yards, 2 targets. Montgomery, 1 catch, 8 yards on 4 targets. 1 target for both Jonathan Taylor and Mo Ali Cox. No catches for either one. Okay. That's what I thought. Okay. Matt Gay, 1 for 1 on field goals. Only attempt was 33 yards and 1 for 1 on extra points. Sanchez, 4 punts, 48.3 yards per. Long was 55 and 2 punts inside the 20. Okay. Speed, it kills. And he led the Colts defense with 10 tackles and 2 passes defense. Zaire Franklin, 9 tackles and 8 pass defense. Brents, 4 tackles. Cross, also with 4 tackles. Kenny Moore, 3 tackles. Epicom, 2 tackles, likewise with Grover Stewart. And DeForest Buckner, but he also added a pass defense. And Harrison, Kwity Paye, and then there's another speed on here. They all had 2 tackles. Kwity Paye also added a sack. So the Indianapolis defender that had 10 tackles is EJ Speed. And the one that had 2 tackles is Amir Speed. As I said, speed kills. Total yards, 406 for the Falcons, 262 for the Colts. Passing and rushing both favored Atlanta in this one. Passing yards were 229 to 170. Rush yards were 177 to 92. So that's nearly a 2-to-1 edge to Atlanta here. Time of possession is 30 minutes, 36 seconds for Indy, 29-24 for Atlanta. First downs, 23 for the Falcons, 20 for the Colts. Third downs, 5 of 14 for Indianapolis, 5 of 13 for Atlanta. Fourth downs, Colts 1 for 3, Falcons 1 for 1. The Colts had 4 penalties for 29 yards. They were sacked 6 times for 31. No lost fumbles, 1 interception, and 4 punts. And the Atlanta Falcons, 4 penalties for 35 yards. 1 sack, no yards lost. No fumbles lost, no interceptions, and 3 punts. Closing line is Atlanta -3, and the over-under is at 44 at close. I took the Colts because they had a bit of a hot hand, but they would get cooled off rather quickly by this Falcons team, so I lost both the straight-up and ATS picks in this one. So this would actually make me 4-3. Okay. They got the Seattle Seahawks, who came up clutch and beat the Tennessee Titans in Nashville 20-17. The Seahawks stay alive in the NFC playoff race at 8-7, while the Tennessee Titans lose again. They are now 5-10. Individual numbers for the Seahawks. Geno Smith back in the saddle, 25 of 36 for 227, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions, QB rating of 104.7, same as Josh Allen. Kenneth Walker, or K9, 16 for 54 yards on 3.4 per run. Geno Smith and DJ Dallas each had 1 rush for 2 yards. Zach Charbonnet had 2 rushes for no yards. So the ground game, pretty much nothing to write home for if you're the Seattle Seahawks. Now to the receivers. Tyler Lockett, 8 catches, 81 yards, 11 targets, 10.1 yards per catch. Jackson Smith in Jigba, or JSN, 6 catches, 61 yards on 7 targets, 10.2 per catch. DK Metcalf, 4 for 56 and a touchdown on 6 targets at 14 a catch. 1 second. Sorry about that. Parkinson, 3 catches and a touchdown on 4 targets, 5.7 per grab. Bobo, 1 catch, 8 yards, 3 targets. Will Disley, 1 catch, 6 yards on 1 target. K9, or Kenneth Walker, 1 catch, 2 yards on 2 targets. Charbonnet, non-factor in this game, running or receiving. He had just 1 catch for -4 on 2 targets. Myers, 2 for 2 on field goals. His long was just 28, 2 for 2 on extra points. Michael Dixon, 3 punts, 44.7 yards per punt. Longest 63. 2 punts inside the 20. Man, I can't stop coughing. Sorry about that, guys. Bobby Wagner led the Seattle defense with 8 tackles and 1 sack. Oh, first I'm coughing, now I'm yawning. What's going on here? Burns with 6 tackles. Bush 5 tackles. Maffei 5 tackles, 2 punts, or rather 2 sacks. Wolin 4 tackles and a pass defense. Williams 3 tackles. Jackson also had 3 tackles. Can't talk. Julian Love 3 tackles and a pass defense. Quandre Diggs 2 tackles and a pass defense. Bryant 2 tackles. And Jones 2 tackles and a sack for the Seahawks. For the Tennessee Titans, Ryan Tannehill back as the starter, 18 of 26, 152, no touchdowns, no interceptions, 84.1 QB rating. Derrick Henry completed for 12 yards and a touchdown. That gives them a 156.3 QB rating. 2 points from a perfect rating. King Henry, 19 rushes, 88 yards, 1 touchdown, 4.6 yards per run. Tajay Spears, 9 for 40 yards on 4.4. Ryan Tannehill, 2 for 37 on 18.5. Treylon Burks, 1 rush, -3. On to the Titans receivers. Okonkwo, 6 catches, 63 yards, and a touchdown on 6 targets, 10.5 yards per catch. Tajay Spears, 5 for 27 at 5.4 per grab and 6 targets. Treylon Burks, 2 for 25. That's 12.5 per catch on 3 targets. DeAndre Hopkins was a non-factor. 2 catches, 20 yards, 10 per catch on 4 targets. Derrick Henry, or as I like to call him, King Henry, one reception, 11 yards on his only target. Moore with 1 catch, 9 yards, 2 targets. Kinsey, 1 catch, 6 yards on his only target. And Dowell, 1 catch, 3 yards on his only target. Nick Folk, 1 for 1 on field goals. Long was 33. 2 for 2 on extra points. Zettner still in for the injured Ryan Stonehouse. 3 punts, 39 yards per punt, 47 is long. 2 inside the 20-yard line. On to the Titans defense. McCreary, 5 tackles. Likewise with Avery. Al Shahir, 4 tackles. Bolden, 3 tackles. Brown, 3 tackles. Reese, 3 tackles. Landry, 3 tackles and a sack. Arden Key, 3 tackles, a sack, and a forced fumble. And Guerrer, 2 tackles and a pass defense for the Titans. Total yards, 287 for Tennessee, 273 for Seattle. Passing yards, Seattle 215, Tennessee 125. Rush yards, 162 for Tennessee, 58 for Seattle. Time of possession, Titans 33 minutes, 51 seconds. Seahawks 26 minutes and 9 seconds. First downs, 23 for Tennessee, 21 for Seattle. Third downs, both did pretty well, 7 of 13 for the Seahawks, 6 of 12 for the Titans. No 4 for Seattle, 1 for 1 for Tennessee. Seahawks had sacked 3 times, losing 12. No fumbles or interceptions, and 3 punts. Tennessee Titans, 10 penalties, 97 yards. They were sacked 6 times for 39. No fumbles or interceptions, and they also had 3 punts. Pretty much copied each other except all the penalties. And with Seattle -3 over under 42.5. Took the Seahawks both straight up and against the spread. So this would now make me 5-3 ATS and 6-2 straight up. The final game we'll look at will be the Washington Commanders and the New York Jets. And it looked for a while like the Jets were going to run away with this as they were up 27-7 at halftime. Washington would erase that 20-point deficit, take a 1-point lead, only to lose on a last-second field goal, giving New York the 30-28 win. Both teams are out of the playoffs at this juncture as the Jets are 6-9, while Washington fell to 4-11. All right, individual numbers for the Jets. Trevor Siemian, 27 of 49, 217 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception, and a 64.8 QB rating. Breece Hall, 20 rushes, 95 yards, 2 touchdowns, 4.8 per run. Abani Konda, 9 rushes, 43 yards, also at 4.8 per run. Simeon, 4 rushes, 18 yards, 4.5. Gibson, 1 for 16. Conklin, 1 for no gain. Garrett Wilson, 1 rush for -8. Yeah, that's not good. Breece Hall also led the Jets with 12 catches for 96 yards on 16 targets, 8 yards per catch. Those are numbers Garrett Wilson usually puts up, but he had 9 catches for 76 yards on 15 targets and 8.4 per catch. Conklin, 4 for 36 targets, 9 per catch. Brownlee, 1 catch, 8 yards on 3 targets. Gibson, 1 catch, 1 yard on 2 targets. Yeboah and Lazard each had 1 target, but no catches. 3 for 3 on field goals. Long was 54. 3 for 3 on extra points. Morstead, 6 punts at 48.7 per. Longest was 54. 1 touchback and 2 punts inside 20. All right. Quincy Williams led the New York Jets defense with 7 tackles, 2 passes defense, and an interception. Adams, 4 tackles, 1 pass defense, then an interception also. C.J. Mosley, 3 tackles. Charles, 3 tackles. John Franklin Myers, 2 tackles, half a sack. Reed, Holmes, Gardner had 2 tackles each, as did Quinnen Williams. Johnson, 2 tackles, 1 pass defense. Carter, 2 tackles, 3 passes defense for the New York Football Jets. Now for the Washington Commanders, who just couldn't seem to hold on to that late lead. Sam Howell was the starting quarterback, and boy, he was terrible. Want proof? Listen to these numbers. 6 for 22, 56 yards, no touchdowns, 2 interceptions, and his QB rating will blow your mind. 1.7. That's Sam Howell's QB rating on Sunday. 1.7. He would be replaced by Jacoby Brissett, who played a lot better than he did. 10 for 13 for 100 yards, a touchdown, no interceptions, and a 123.9 QB rating. Rodriguez, 10 rushes, 58 yards, 2 touchdowns, 5.8 yards per run. Antonio Gibson, 9 for 30 and a touchdown, 3.3 per run. Jacoby Brissett, 1 rush, 10 yards. Curtis Samuel, 2 rushes, 4 yards. That's 2 per run. As for the Commanders' receivers, scary Terry McLaurin, not exactly scary. 3 catches, 50 yards on 5 targets, 16.7 yards per catch. Logan Thomas, 5 for 36 and a touchdown on 6 targets, 7.2 yards per catch. Jahan Dotson, 2 for 31 on 4 targets, 15.5 per catch. Curtis Samuel, only 1 reception on 6 targets for 16. Bates, 3 catches, 14 yards on 5 targets. Rodriguez, 1 catch, 7 yards on his only target. Antonio Gibson, 1 catch, 2 yards on 2 targets. Brian Pringle had 2 targets in the game, no catches. Jamison Crowder had 1 target in the game and no catches for him. No field goals attempted for Joey Sly, but he was 4 for 4 on extra points, all in the second half. Or most of them were in the second half. Sorry about that. Tress Way, 7 punts, 42 yards a punt. Long was 49. 3 punts inside the 20-yard line, and he also had a punt blocked. Hudson led the Washington defense with 10 tackles and 2 passes defensed. Barton, 7 tackles, pass defense, and an interception. Martin and Burgess, 4 tackles each. Mayo, Butler, and Payne, 3 tackles apiece. Fuller, 3 tackles, 3 passes defense. Cameron Curl had 3 tackles and 1 pass defense. Smith Williams, 3 tackles for Washington. Total yards, Jets 381, Commanders 245. Passing 217 to 143 for the Jets. Rush also favored the Jets 164 to 102. Time of possession, New York 36 minutes 16 seconds. Washington 23 minutes 44 seconds. The Jets had 26 first downs versus 18 for the Commanders. Looking at third downs, 3 of 12 for Washington. That's not good. 4 of 16 for the New York Jets. That's also not good. Both were 25%. Fourth downs, 1 for 1 for Washington, 1-2 for the Jets. 22 accepted penalties in this game. Washington at 8 for 68 yards, 1 sack for a loss of 13, 1 fumble loss, 2 interceptions, and 8 punts. The Jets had 14 penalties for 150. They were not sacked. They lost a fumble. They threw an interception, and they had 6 punts. Closing line was New York -3, and the over-under is 36. I picked Washington both straight up and with the points lost, both of those picks. So to this point, I am 6-3 in my straight up picks and 5-4 in my ATS picks. So that'll wrap up part 1 of this week 16 edition of the week that was. I'll be back a little later for part 2 as we'll run down the 3 Sunday late games and Sunday night football, plus the Christmas Day triple header, which included a Super Bowl preview between the Ravens and 49ers. So join me later for that. In the meantime, like, comment, and subscribe to my channel. Ring the bell to get notified every time I go live. Big Al signing off. Thanks for watching and enjoy the pigskin. Peace out.